I seem to have misplaced the sun.
Whether you've ever walked into a room with a very clear mission and somehow returned without the one thing that you went in there for, or you've watched your spouse do exactly that and wondered how they survived how long, thanks for joining me on Coffee with Dubs. Today, we're talking about marital amnesia. Good morning and welcome back to Coffee with Dubs. Now, before anybody starts Googling symptoms, marital amnesia is not an actual medical diagnosis. This is one of those things that the meme lords of the internet apparently wordsmithed into existence because enough of us married people looked at each other and said, there has to be a name for whatever the hell this is. And the internet gets to invent the term. But I feel like those of us who actually are living with it should at least get to discuss the symptoms. For me, marital amnesia usually starts with a simple, reasonable request. I need to go into the other room and get something. That's the entire assignment. No essay question at the end, no obstacle course. Nobody's hidden an object inside a puzzle box. I walk into a room fully confident, then somewhere between the doorway and whatever I was supposed to retrieve, the signal drops. Sometimes I completely forget why I'm there. Other times I remember what I need, get distracted by something unrelated, handle that instead, and I confidently walk back out like I accomplished something. Then I get that look that immediately tells me I've returned from the mission without the hostage. And women, I know what you're thinking. How? That's the question, isn't it? Because from your side, this probably looks absolutely insane. You asked for an object, you told us where the object was, we physically entered a room containing the object, remained there for an appropriate amount of time, and somehow came back without it. I understand how the evidence looks, but I'd like to speak on behalf of the men everywhere who stood in front of an open refrigerator and said, we don't have any, only to have a woman walk over and immediately pull the one thing out from directly in front of our face. We did look. Now, was it a thorough search conducted according to acceptable scientific standards? Hell no. But there was a visual contact with a general idea. This is where I think that marriage develops two completely different definitions of the word look. When my wife says she looked for something, there has apparently been an investigation. Drawers were opened, objects have been moved. The possibility that another object may have been blocking the target has somehow been considered. When I say I looked, there's a very real chance I stood in a doorway, scanned the room like a security camera. If that object didn't immediately identify itself, the search may have concluded. I know that sounds terrible, but I also have ADHD, so in my particular case, there is another layer to this. My brain is really good at noticing whatever becomes suddenly interesting and occasionally terrible at holding on to boring little tasks that I was already doing. That doesn't mean ADHD gets to become my permanent excuse for forgetting everything, but it does explain why I go into the bedroom and grab the thing and can somehow turn into an entirely different side quest. The stupid part is I might actually do something useful along the way. I'll notice something I meant to fix and I'll fix it. Then that reminds me of something else I wanted to take care of. By the time I return, I'm standing there feeling mildly accomplished while the person who originally sent me on this quest is wondering why I returned empty-handed. From my perspective, productivity happened. From theirs, the mission failed. And this is the part where I start risking having the exact kind of argument I didn't want to start. Ladies, when you say it's right there, I need you to understand that information isn't as useful and helpful as you'd think it is. Right there is not a location. Right there is a philosophical concept. Because you can be pointing directly at something and somehow my brain is still scanning everything except that 6-inch area in front of your finger. And then you walk over. This is the part that hurts the most. You don't even search, you just reach. Suddenly, you're holding that object and now both of us have to stand there and for a moment consider every choice that led me to this point in my life. There's usually a facial expression involved too. Not necessarily anger, it's more like watching somebody fail a test you were absolutely certain they could pass, and fellas, I can't defend us here because sometimes that thing really was right there. There's no appeal process, but I do think there's a difference between not caring and genuinely not registering something. That's where these little household arguments can get weird. The person who notices what was missed starts thinking, how could you possibly not see that? Meanwhile, the person who missed it isn't pretending. Their brain just didn't flag the thing as important enough to bring into focus. That doesn't make it less annoying, it just makes it slightly less malicious. And I think that's really the comedy underneath marital amnesia. Most of the time, nobody's trying to be a difficult person. One person genuinely can't understand how one other person missed something so obvious while the other person standing there saying, I swear to God that wasn't there 30 seconds ago. Both believe in their vision. One of them is usually holding the missing object. That person tends to win. I've also noticed marital amnesia apparently works differently depending on the importance of an item. Ask me where some random thing from 6 months ago is, and there's a decent chance I can tell you exactly where I saw it last. Ask me to grab something I was told about 12 seconds ago, and apparently those 12 seconds contained several major historical events. I don't know why my brain works that way. I just live here. The trick I'm learning is not to get defensive about it. If somebody points out I forgot the thing, I probably forgot the thing. Trying to explain the entire neurological journey that occurred between the living room and the kitchen isn't exactly going to make the object appear in my hand. So I go back. Usually. Assuming I remember why I went back. And to the women watching this who regularly experience this phenomenon, I do offer my condolences. I understand from the outside it looks like some incredibly elaborate prank. You have every right to be confused when a grown adult walks past the thing you asked for twice and then announces that it doesn't exist. Just understand that some of us are equally confused, because I promise you there are moments where I'm staring directly at the thing and my brain is basically saying, nope, never seen that object in my life. So thank you for joining me on another Pour Coffee with Dubs. Until next time, remember, if your husband tells you he already looked for it, give him a little grace. Then, go get it from the exact spot you just checked. The hell was I talking about again? Oh well, I'm out of here.